Hi, and welcome to my channel. Dan the Unknown here. Hope you're all doing well. And welcome to my first episode of my new weekly installment till Wednesday at 2. Today's topic is going to be my 13 favorite non-metal, non-hard rock, heavy rock albums of all time. My criteria basically is obviously if it's heavy metal, it's not going to the album's not going to be this list. If it's hard, heavier rock stuff with a lot of distorted guitars on it, like bands like Zeppelin or Aerosmith, stuff like that, they're not going to be on here either. You might find some distorted guitar on some of the tracks on these albums, but the primary focus isn't distorted guitar. Also, not a lot of wild, crazy guitar shredding or anything like that, even though some of these albums do feature some of the greatest guitarists that ever lived and some great guitar playing. For the most part, these are in no particular order except for albums 1 and number 2. Those will definitely be in the order. So let's get started. First off will be The Doors. The Doors, their first album. It's got a couple of my favorite Doors songs. Soul Kitchen, Crystal Ship. Of course it has Light My Fire on it, which is a big hit for them. And it also has End of the Night and The End, which is one of my all-time favorite songs. So clearly that's going to be probably my favorite Doors song also. Next we have Breakfast in America by Supertramp. Now the reason I ended up getting this album was a stupid college story. There was this girl that kind of hung out with the one of the groups of people I hung out with in college. Because of her schedule and my schedule, we didn't spend a lot of time together in that group. Now, this particular group of people I was friends with, they had all gone to high school with her. But anyways, I kind of started liking her a lot just from what little I knew about her. So I finally got up the courage to ask her out and found out she was moving at the end of this school year, which was in less than a week from when I asked her out. She could have been lying, I don't know. But anyways, so the song Goodbye Stranger kept playing through my head. So I happened to hear it on the way home from school that night. So I ended up going, and I think it was the now defunct store in Connecticut called Bradley's. And I picked this up with another album. And of course, that was on cassette because CDs weren't really big yet then. They're just starting to become popular. But listening through the album, it just really clicked with me. I had heard the Logical song and Breakfast in America, the title tracks, along with Take the Long Way Home. I just never knew that they were all from the same album. In fact, I remember seeing the video for Take the Long Way Home a lot on MTV before this. I can't really tell you what songs stick out for me because this whole album just sticks out for me. Gone Hollywood's a great song. Like I said, the Logical song. Oh Darling. But my favorite song off of the album would be the closing song, Child of Vision. I just love how it sounds. It has a very late 70s, early 80s porno kind of song sounding to it. and the lyrics just click with me too. But this album from start to finish is great. Okay, next is an album called Seven by Michael Butcher. He is actually somebody who I know in real life. That's not why he's on this list. He's on this list because this album is great. He's a Native American artist. Right from the start, Don't Forget About Me, great song. The title track is a great song, 7. Cradle to Grave is a great song. Cherokee Rose is a great song. But my favorite probably, again, is the closing track, You're Not Alone, which he had started up a website called You're Not Alone. It's a great website for suicide prevention. I cannot say enough about this album, how much I love it, and how much I love Michael Butcher as an artist. Next will be the first album by The Murmurs, just called The Murmurs. Oddly enough, the way I got into this album is I don't know if it was a commercial or a promo video for the song Bad Mood, but it played during Saturday morning cartoons. And this is back in 94, 95, somewhere around there. I'm guessing 94 because that's when the album came out. And the video came out while I was watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I loved it. They kind of remind me of a female Simon, I hate to say it female, but female Simon Garfunkel. They harmonize very well together. It's primarily acoustic music. Great songs are Bad Mood, Wasting Time, Mission, Carry Me Home, Beautiful Piece, basically. And probably their most popular song off of here is called You Suck. But it's a great album if you can find it. I've actually seen them live, touring for that album. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anybody to go with me and had to go alone. Okay, next. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. One of the more popular pop musicians to come out of Connecticut, my home state. Another great album, start to finish. I really got into this album because my dad used to play a few songs off of it. 2 Out of 3 being one of them. He used to play that song and sing it all the time. You took the words right out of my mouth, and Paradise by the Dashboard Light were also videos that popped up on MTV a lot. So I ended up picking this album up at some point. This album, or Paradise by the Dashboard Lights itself, used to come on at almost every party I went to back in my partying days. So this album brings back a lot of memories. But it's a great album right from the start. Also, from Bat Out of Hell all the way to the closing track, For Crying Out Loud. Another standout track for me would be Heaven Can Wait. There's not a bad track on this album in my opinion, so it's definitely worth getting also. Next will be N.W.A.'s Straight Outta Compton. I got into rap when I was working third shift. One of my coworkers, he was into rap a lot and pop music, but he was also into a lot of rock music. And we bonded over his love of rock music, and listening to him play rap got me into it. But I also saw a video for the song Express Yourself on MTV, and I really liked it. So I ended up picking up Straight Outta Compton. And to be honest, it was a little rough at first. All the swearing and the gangster rap lyrics and singing about, shooting people and whatnot. And of course, this was before I really got into death metal, so I wasn't into a lot of songs that talked about killing people. But anyways, this really grew on me. The only bad song to me that I'm not crazy about on here would probably be Quiet on the Set. Even though I do like it, it's just not as good as the rest of the album. 8 Ball is a great song. Express Yourself is a great song. I Ain't the One is a great song. Gangster Gangster is great. Fuck the Police is great. The title track, Straight Outta Compton, is great. It's great. What can I say? That was my gateway into rap. Alright, another album I love that's not metal would be Hey Babe by Juliana Hatfield. I was a big fan of Juliana Hatfield's second album. That's how I got into her. And then I ended up picking up this album. And the thing I like about this album over her second album are 3 songs. The song Ugly, the opening track Everybody Loves Me But You, which I think is a great song, and her rendition of Nirvana, which was a song she did with her band the Blake Babies before this, which is probably my favorite song of hers from her solo stuff. Ugly and Nirvana would be my favorites, I should say. I See You is a great song. Get Off Your Knees, No Answer, great songs. Great album. Okay, next is the Beatles' Abbey Road. The first album I ever bought with my own money was the Beatles' Abbey Road. The first rock t-shirt I ever had, my dad bought me when I was in 6th grade, a Beatles' Abbey Road t-shirt. Obviously, it doesn't fit me anymore, but this will forever be my favorite Beatles album. Come Together is on here, Something, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, The End, Her Majesty are great. Carry That Weight's great. She Came In Through the Bathroom Window's great. Here Comes the Sun, Because, I Want You, She's So Heavy, Oh Darling. Again, there's not a bad song on this album. This will always be in my heart as one of the greatest albums ever put out. And the album cover has been parodied and memed a lot. Next we have Enigma's NCMXC AD, which is Roman numerals for 1990 AD. I took it out, the sleeve out of the case because the case is all jacked up. Now, this album, for me, represents how something can just grow on you. My friend Scott used to play this album at parties all the time. And most of my friends through my life have not been metal heads or people into metal. And Scott is one of those people who aren't into metal. But he would play this album in his car, blaring at damn near every party. And I fucking hated this album. 6 months later, it grew on me. And I bought it on cassette. And then eventually on CD. I absolutely love this album. It takes me back to those better times when I could drink and still be a fun person and have a good time and not be a miserable prick. Let's see. Of course, we have great songs on here like Principles of Lust, which is broken down into Sadness, Find Love, and Sadness reprise. Callous Went Away, Mea Culpa. My favorite track probably would be Back to the Rivers of Belief, which is split out into Way to Eternity, Hallelujah, and of course the Rivers of Belief. Sadness reprise, I actually bought the 12-inch off of a friend of mine because I love that so much. It's also featured in one of my favorite movies, Box and Helena. So yeah, this is a great album. Definitely far from metal. I guess you'd call it kind of trance music, ambiance music. I'm not sure. Their second album is great also, but okay, another great album. Seed of Memory by Terry Reid. This album is so great that Rob Zombie not only used one, not even only two, but three songs off of here for on his soundtrack for The Devil's Rejects, which is how I got into this album. Those songs are the title track Seed of Memory, Brave Awakening, and To Be Treated Right, spelled R-I-T-E. Faith to Rise, the opening track is great. Fooling You, the closing track is great. This came out in 76, I believe. This was his third album. This is great from beginning to end. Yeah, Seeds of Memory by Terry Reid. I cannot say enough good stuff about him. Okay, so for my number 2 non-metal album of all time, I have a tie. And I can't find my CD of the other one, so I'll put up a picture of it. But it would be a tie between Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon or Pink Floyd's metal album. Now, you probably know Dark Side of the Moon is like the best-selling album of all time, or one of them. Was on the charts for something like 720 fucking weeks in a row. It's an iconic album from the beginning to end. I'm not crazy about the song Money on here. With that said, the rest of the songs are so good. I overlooked the fact that I don't really like the song Money and still consider this one of the greatest albums of all time. Metal, on the other hand, there's not one track I don't like on there. Um, my favorite tracks on Metal would be Seamus um, and Echoes, which would be my all-time favorite Pink Floyd song. On Dark Side of the Moon, uh, the first three tracks, as they have it listed here, are Speak to Me and Breathe, A and B, and then On the Run and Time, which you basically usually get Time with Breathe reprise as one track. But all that in a succession, played together, are phenomenal. Any Color You Like is great. Brain Damage and Eclipse are great. But a song that I didn't really like to begin with when I first got this album back in high school, but is now probably my standout track, The Great Gig in the Sky. The vocals by Claire Torrey on The Great Gig in the Sky are just phenomenal. That's probably the reason I didn't like it to begin with, because it's kind of an instrumental, but not like a guitar-led instrumental or anything. It's just a vocal-led, and there was no lyrics to it. But goddamn, it's a great song. And if you had to really press me to say which is better, Dark Side of the Moon or Metal, I couldn't really pick. So now, my number one non-metal album of all time, and it's probably may just be my number one album of all time, and it's definitely one of my top possessions as far as any vinyl goes that I own. Frank Zappa's Joe's Garage, Acts 1, 2, and 3. Now, I got into Frank Zappa accidentally. It was the summer after Motley Crue's Theater of Pain came out, and I was down at the beach in my town up in Connecticut. Had that album in my cassette player, and ran into this guy Toby we knew. We run into sometimes at the beach, and he wanted to listen to the Theater of Pain album. He hadn't got it yet, and in his cassette player he had Frank Zappa's Joe's Garage Act 1, the first cassette. So we swapped cassettes to borrow, figuring we'll run into each other in a week or two and probably trade then. Of course, I don't think I ran into Toby ever again. So the cassette for Act 1 became mine, and obviously Theater of Pain became his. But I really, really loved the album. And being young, dumb, I didn't even think about the fact that there was probably more to it, because, you know, stories come in acts, and usually 3 acts. I just thought it was a kind of strange title, Joe's Garage Act 1, you know. And listening to the music, that was my intro to Frank Zappa. Now, I've heard of Frank Zappa by then. I've heard of Jazz from Hell, because one of my classmates had a Frank Zappa Jazz from Hell t-shirt. I also had heard of the album Which Arriving Too Late to Save the John and Witch, because Steve Vai was on that album, and I was a Steve Vai fan by then. I just never got around to picking it up. Eventually I did pick that up. And eventually I picked up other Frank Zappa albums. But this fell into my possession. One day I went to a music store up in either Naugatuck or Waterbury, not too far from where I worked night shifts. I went one morning after work. I worked late, got out around 9:30, 10. One of my coworkers who lived up there told me about this place, so I went in there. And lo and behold, this was sitting on display. It's like all three records. So I looked at the back. It said Joe's Garage Acts 1, 2, and 3. I was like, oh shit, that makes sense. There would be more to it than that one tape. So, obviously I purchased it. I think it was like $20 for all three records at the time. And this is probably the coolest album as far as like the packaging goes. Act 1 is in its own sleeve, gatefold. And of course you have the title track, Joe's Garage, which is a great song, and you hear that on the radio every once in a while. It has the great closing track, Lucille Has Messed My Mind Up. Cruise Slut was a great song. Catholic Girls was a great song. And of course, on Act 1 you have one of the most important questions ever asked, the song, Why Does It Hurt When I Pee? But then you have Acts 2 and 3 on, well, in its own gatefold sleeve. And of course this comes with all the lyrics. And you have songs like Cyborg, Stick It Out, Keep It Greasy, Watermelon and Easter Hay, which is a great instrumental. Some phenomenal guitar playing by Frank Zappa on that. Packard Goose, great song, and one of the greatest closing songs of any album ever, Little Green Rosetta. So basically this album is a musical. It's about a dystopian future where music is illegal. Joe gets arrested and in trouble with the law for trying to start a band. Eventually he goes to jail for another crime. And he dreams of music, and he meets record executives, ex-record executives while he's in jail. And it's an album that has to be experienced to fully appreciate the message and the music. But the record, I have this on cassette, vinyl, and CD. And the record is the only one that comes with the lyrics. And the way the lyrics are set up is as a musical would be. It's got your background of what's going on. It's got your characters of who's singing what and their lines. It gives you a background of the story. It's just I've never seen an album packaged like this before. It's also got great artwork to go along with what's going on in the album. It's, I don't know, I can't explain it. You would have to hear it and look at it for yourself. I'll probably do a more in-depth thing on this album at some point. So that's my top 13 non-metal, non-hard rock albums. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned about some new good albums. Hope you enjoyed my new weekly segment till Wednesday at 2. And I hope you'll keep tuning in and tune in for my other music and guitar related videos. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Bye.